Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. I'm very excited for this video as we're going to further break down my NBA award winners, specifically focusing on my all defense teams this year, which was a real task and very challenging to limit to just 10 players, as well as my all NBA picks, which again was very tough to limit to just 15 players. Felt like I had 7 guys I wanted to put onto All-NBA second team. It felt like I had 10 guys I wanted to put onto All-NBA third team. So there were some tough exclusions in this video. I hope you guys do understand that. There's no hate. I love watching NBA basketball. I love watching your favorite team just as much as I do watching mine. So there's no hate in this video. Just my overall analysis and breakdown on this NBA year and who I would vote for these awards if I did have a vote. Now, for a video preview, there's some things to remind you of. First of all, there's no positional requirements anymore for these awards. Because of that, you're going to see probably a few extra centers on the defense list, and you're probably going to see a few less centers on the overall All-NBA list. And the 65 games played requirement also plays into this. So Joel Embiid, who has been tremendous this season, basically scoring a point per minute every single night out there seemingly, he's not going to make the list because he did not meet the games played requirement. And also with that, there is a minutes played requirement as well to stop teams from just letting a guy play the first minute of the game and then pulling him out to reach that 65 game threshold. So that does come into effect here for someone like Gilgeous-Alexander Walker for the Minnesota Timberwolves, as well as Isaac Okoro for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those two guys do not meet the minutes played requirement tied to the games played requirement. So you're looking at two of the better defenders in the league getting immediately excluded from this list because of those requirements. Also, I want to know your guys' picks for all defense and all NBA below. So as we go through, let me know who you would have all defense first team, who you would have all defense second team, as well as the 3 teams for all NBA. I think there's a lot of great ways to look at it. Again, I don't think my list is necessarily perfect. It's just the final conclusion I came to and the players that I would give the edge over others. I think it's a very subjective list, especially this season with how close some of the races are for some of these accolades. So keep that in mind. But let's jump into my all defense first team. And the very top of the list for me is Rudy Gobert. If you watch my all NBA awards video where I talk about the DPOY, MVP, etc., you know that I picked Rudy Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's a no-brainer lock in here, as well as Victor Wembanyama, who was my runner-up. I think it's a very close race. If you look at the tracking data on NBA.com, Rudy has actually been a better defender still this season. I know Wembanyama has incredible stock numbers. He registers 3+ blocks a game. He is unbelievable. There's no question about it. So not discrediting Victor Wembanyama at all. He is still an all-defense first-team member. He should be a lock for that accolade. Like I said, all draft process long, I think he's going to be one of the best defenders to ever play, arguably the greatest to ever play defensively because of his unique combination of length, size, mobility, and shot block timing. Remember, just 12 months ago, casuals like Shaquille O'Neal were saying he's just another Bull. I was never one of those people. I have for a long time said that this kid's going to be really special, and he has proven that this season. Anthony Davis continues to be a dominant two-way force in the league. I think he's been really a big impactful force for the Lakers, definitely deserving of all defense first team. In my eyes, I think that this is a very well-deserved award and accomplishment for him who, at some point he might break through that threshold and really unlock what we saw back at Kentucky when he was the National Player of the Year at the collegiate level as an all-defense mega master. We might get that version of Anthony Davis at some point in the near future. I hope to see him win a DPOY, but at this time this year, he's just not in that conversation, and it'll be pretty difficult to beat out Wembanyama in the future. Herb Jones, the Pelicans have made it their mission to make sure he makes all defense first team. They're really putting out a lot of emphasis on him, especially with their social media pages. They have changed their Twitter profile picture to a lock with Herb Jones kind of written in there. It's a cool little texture art design. You should definitely go check it out if you haven't. But he's definitely deserving of all defense first team this year. He is the crux of their defense, one of the best defensive teams in the league this season, which kind of sounds surprising to say about New Orleans. You wouldn't kind of pinhole them into a top 10 defense, but that is what they have been this season, and Herb Jones is really in the middle and forefront of it. One of the most switchable players in the NBA. I remember watching him back at Alabama, and he was playing point center for them, bringing the ball up the floor, guarding other bigs, switchable out in space, and that's all translated to the NBA level as an elite point of attack defender, an excellent screen navigator, and one of the best defensive playmakers still in the league. When you have a defensive player who can get in the passing lanes, alter shots at the rim as a shot blocker without having to sacrifice any of his actual positioning, he doesn't gamble a ton, he doesn't find himself out of position very frequently, that's when you know you have a special defensive player. I think, honestly, the only wing defender in the league better than Herb Jones is Jonathan Isaac, but he does not actually qualify with the requirements. So Jonathan Isaac, who in my eyes is the best per-minute defender in the NBA, the most switchable defender 1 through 5, he does not qualify for this list, but Herb Jones does a lot of similar things to Isaac. He's not as big as him, obviously, but Herb Jones is a freakishly good defender. And then I had kind of a little bit of difficulty pinning in this final spot on all defense first team. There's a bunch of candidates for second team I wanted to consider. In this last spot, it was kind of a give me between a few different guys. I landed ultimately on Jrue Holiday for the Boston Celtics for a couple of reasons. First of all, we know the track record. We know how impactful he is defensively. I think if you look at Milwaukee this season, his absence has been so obvious for them from a screen navigation standpoint, ability to kind of maximize Brook Lopez and drop coverage. The difference between Jrue Holiday and Damian Lillard / Malik Beasley for them has been immense and has honestly really hurt the Bucks and their overall concept of team defense there in Milwaukee. And I think not only does Jrue give you all of those similar things in Boston, but he has been a real chess piece for Joe Mazzulla, kind of playing in the middle of their 2-1-2 zone, tagging rollers and cutters. He's just a really unique player. When he's matched up with bigger teams, Boston has employed him guarding centers and power forwards. They put him on Karl Anthony Towns. They've used him on Nikola Jokic at times. They put him on Aaron Gordon. They've used him all over the floor, guarding multiple different types of players. There's not very many players in the league who can take those assignments, especially at his size. So for me, I gave him the benefit of the doubt over some of the other guys who you'll see on all defense second team, just because I think the track record's there and the way that they've utilized him has been really unique compared to his previous seasons, and his analytics and tracking data all still suggest that he belongs in this first team conversation. I think it's very well deserved. So let's jump into that all defense second team now. And at the front of my list is Alex Caruso, one of the best defenders in the NBA. Not only from, again, a screen navigation point of attack standpoint, I keep saying those words, those are super important. When you're evaluating and analyzing perimeter defenders, it is essential to have guys who can navigate screens in today's NBA with the type of screens that are allowed to be set, moving screens. You have Varejao screens, Gortat screens. There's a ton going on in the NBA that really gives advantage to the offensive player, especially the ball handler. Alex Caruso is one of the best at limiting that, but he's also elite in all of the other areas. He's a good box out guard. Now that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. Guards who can crack back in, get box outs is a big reason why Jrue Holiday made my all defense first team, is he's also elite at that. And then when it comes to off ball defensive responsibilities, Caruso is someone who can operate in that blind pig role where he does a good job denying the basketball to a specific player. We've seen that against some of the best players in the league that he has defended this season. And then off the ball as well, when he's in help side positioning, he's one of the best taggers in the NBA. He does a good job tagging roll men and making sure that they don't get inside positioning easily. He has very active hands. He gets in the passing lanes, takes some charges. Caruso, just honestly, his defensive tape is tremendous. He closes out on the basketball extremely well. He's got active feet, active hands. Definitely should make all defense this year. I would be shocked and stunned if he did not. He's been one of the biggest bright spots for the Chicago Bulls over the last couple of years, and he continues to just be a dominant defensive player. Then let's highlight Jaden McDaniels, who I think, honestly, there's a lot more on defense he can do than what we've been able to see in Minnesota. Mostly, Chris Finch uses him as a point of attack defender, utilizing his length and size and screen navigation and recoverability to really impact the ball handler, whether that is a Tyrese Maxey, whether that is a De'Aaron Fox, a Malik Monk at times, whether that's a Luka Doncic. He takes all of the top assignments for Minnesota, and he always does a great job in those assignments, making life difficult for the opposing star player. He is, again, one of the more switchable players in the league with his size at about 6'10". He looks like a string bean out there guarding some of these smaller, quicker players, but he just does a great job out in space. They trust him all the way out to half court. He's able to put on ball pressure, stay in the passing lanes with his active hands. And of course, I think the one area where we haven't even seen him maximize yet, and it's because Minnesota needs him on the ball as often as they use him that way, when he's off the ball, he could be one of the best help side shot blockers in the league among all wings because he has the length, the size, the timing. We saw that at UW when he was back with the Huskies in college, where he was a really intriguing defensive prospect because of his ability to challenge shots at the rim as a tag man, as a help defender in rotation. Minnesota doesn't utilize him that way. They have used him to try and shut down the number one option, and it's worked. They're the number one defense in the NBA, but I think there's even more on the plate for Jaden McDaniels to continue growing as a defensive player and to really up his stock as a defender in this league once he finally is given that opportunity, maybe in a different team context in a couple of seasons. Then we look at Bam Adebayo, one of the best defenders in the league as well. For me, I've tried to build out kind of more functional teams with my all defense selections, not necessarily what you have to do. Again, there is no positional requirement, but on all defense first team, I didn't want to have 4 or 5 centers. I just felt like that wasn't really fair for the guards who are some of the best defensive players in the league still. So Adebayo, for me, gets moved down to second team. He was in serious consideration for the all defense first team spot that ultimately went to Drew Holiday, and for good reason. He's extremely switchable, one of the best bigs out in space in this league. He, of course, does a great job providing rim protection as well for Miami. And with him, he's, again, another unique chess piece. We talked about that with Drew Holiday. Adebayo allows Eric Spoelstra to do a bunch of different things. He's fantastic operating in the middle of the zone. Miami goes to zone more than any other team in the league. Oftentimes they do that with their bench, but when Adebayo's on the floor and they do that, they're still really, really darn good defensively in that setting. He's also just a fantastic post-up defender. He does a great job guarding out in space, again, in screens. You can head and recover with him. You can switch. You can play and drop with him even a bit. He's just such a unique big man defensively. He firmly deserves one of these spots, and here he is on my all-defense second-team list, along with Jalen Suggs. We're staying in Florida, and now time to talk about Orlando, who has been one of the big surprise teams this season. I went back and looked at my preseason kind of predictions for them, and I had viewed them as a team that would be in the play-in mix. And I don't feel like I was wrong about that kind of expectation for them. The reality is they outperformed the expectations for everybody. So I have no problem saying that I was too low on Orlando coming into the season, because I think we've seen so many big jumps and growths from a lot of their players. Of course, at the top of the list is Paolo Banchero, but Franz Wagner's been awesome this year as well. And then Jalen Suggs has really taken a huge step forward in his career. Now, going back a few drafts ago to his class, I said that Scottie Barnes was the right decision for Toronto, but it wasn't because I hated Jalen Suggs as a prospect. And in fact, my comparison for Jalen Suggs pre-draft was Drew Holiday, a player who I thought could be a unique two-way key piece to a winning team. And at the time, Drew Holiday was helping the Milwaukee Bucks win an NBA Finals. So I think we're seeing Jalen Suggs take that step forward. His production as a scorer has really increased. A lot of that has come through progression as a shooter. And as long as he continues to develop on the offensive end, he's going to be an awesome elite player in this league with his ability to guard. He's really set the tone for Orlando this year. Him and Jonathan Isaac, just two unique, freakish defensive players who together form a really crazy combination. But the rest of the Orlando team guards as well. Jamal Mosley deserves a lot of credit. He was in my finalist for Coach of the Year. Orlando's in a great spot moving forward. It's crazy because they're super young. They have some cap flexibility this offseason as well. The Magic might be really heading toward a great situation moving forward. We'll still see kind of how Banchero performs in the playoffs. I think this postseason is going to be an awesome test for them, and we'll get a better idea of who this team really is when it comes to getting tested in the postseason and how Banchero, Wagner, and company perform in that setting. But Jalen Suggs deserves all the credit in the world for what he's done defensively this year. He's a deflection master. He gets in the passing lanes, able to rip the basketball as well. He's just a really good defensive player who, again, doesn't sacrifice his positioning much. He's a hustle guy. He seemingly gets to every single loose ball, and he's just really impressed me with his play this season. And then the final spot, this one was really difficult for me. There was a lot of players I wanted to consider. Jared Allen from Cleveland was another player on my list that I wanted to give some real consideration to. But the fact that Boston has been such a dominant defensive team all season long, they have by far the best record in the NBA. It felt a little sacrilegious to not reward the Celtics with 2 all-defense members with how good their defense has been. I did the same with Minnesota, given the fact that they've been at the top of the league defensively all year long. And I think the 2 key pieces for Boston defensively this year have been Drew Holiday and Derek White. I think White, similar to Holiday in a lot of ways in terms of the positional flexibility he provides defensively, shot blocking capabilities as a guard is very unique. He's huge. For his position, he offers a lot of size, versatility, again, very active hands, and just a very smart player. I think one thing about Boston, not only do they have a lot of talent, they have a lot of IQ as well on the floor. Guys who understand how basketball, modern basketball especially, is supposed to be played. A lot of selfless play and a lot of effort that goes into winning the way that they have this year. I would be shocked if the Celtics don't win the East this season. I think they're that good of a team. I said it before the season, even after the Dame trade. I said the Celtics are the team to beat. I didn't really think it was particularly close, and they've proven that this year with their performance. Then we look at all NBA first team. Now, again, this is really a challenge for me picking my 15 spots for all NBA. I think first team, the first 4 spots are pretty clear though. Luka Doncic, who I think should be the MVP of the league. He has been on a historic pace in terms of his points, rebounds, assists. The traditional counting stats all suggest that Luka Doncic should be the MVP this year, but that's no discredit to Nikola Jokic. If Jokic wins his 3rd MVP, I think that is very well deserved. Either of these 2 guys, for me, it's a real coin toss. I went toward Luka Doncic here because I think the value that he provides to his team is just a little bit different. Looking at the Mavericks compared to the Nuggets, I think the Nuggets have the best starting 5 in the league. I think, first of all, Tim Connolly did a great job assembling the crux of that team, and then Calvin Booth has done a great job implementing other pieces into it as well. So Denver, for me, I think, obviously it's all built around Jokic. I'm not saying he's not valuable to Denver. He is at the heart of everything that they do, but they've got a lot of talent around him that fits him, whereas Dallas, I still think, is trying to figure that out, and I think they've taken steps forward with that. Now they have completely emptied out their asset cupboard to do so. It's going to be a good test long-term of how that works out or not for the Mavericks, but I think that these 2 guys are definitely 1 and 2. Third, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously dealing with a calf strain now, kind of a scary injury for him in the Bucks. We'll see how that ages, and hopefully he's able to be ready to go by the first game of the postseason, and I'm hoping health for him, but he definitely deserves All-NBA first team. The 4th spot I thought was pretty clear as well. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, really the identity piece of the Oklahoma City Thunder, the way that they play, drive and kick. He manifests all of that. The team is built around him very, very well. Sam Presti deserves a lot of credit. Drafting Chet Holmgren 2nd overall, I thought was a no-brainer for them. I really liked Chet as a prospect. I thought that his 2-way play, ability to stretch the floor, was going to be perfect there in Oklahoma City. All of that has aged extremely well. They're reaping the benefits of that now, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just continues his kind of trajectory as a true top 5 player in this league. This 5th spot right now clearly would go to Joel Embiid if he was healthy and had enough games played to fit the requirement. He does not, so I went with Jalen Brunson here, and I think Brunson does fit the criteria. He is top 5 in scoring this season, and with all of the New York Knicks injuries, with Julius Randle missing so much time, OG Anunoby missing time, the team made, of course, a big trade in the middle of the season. I think the one real steady factor for the Knicks this year has been Jalen Brunson. He has really been the center point of his team being so good and being a real contender in the Eastern Conference. Now, like I said earlier, I think the Boston Celtics will win the East, but I think the team that's honestly poised to give them their best run and best shot to maybe upset Boston is going to be the New York Knicks, because they win with defense, length, versatility, and then when you look at what Jalen Brunson gives you on the offensive end, he's had so many 40-plus point games this year. He's just been an absolutely dynamic player since getting to New York, continues to ascend each and every year into this superstar, megastar player, the player that the Knicks have been waiting for a long time, and I think he is very well deserving of All-NBA first team this season. Then we look at All-NBA second team, and Jason Tatum has to be on this list. He was my other candidate for All-NBA first team. Some of the stats suggest Tatum would have been a better pick than Brunson. I think Brunson has been slightly more important this year, more impactful for New York's winning compared to Tatum. That's not to discredit Jason Tatum. He has been the best player on the best team all season long. I'm not discrediting Jason Tatum. He's an awesome player. Having him sixth here is not any shot at him. And I think he's going to probably be on pace to win an NBA Finals and really kind of cement his legacy, because he has just been one of the most steady, stable players in the league over the last 4 or 5 years. He's not even fully in his prime yet. I know people are tired of, oh, well, he lost in the finals, or he lost in the conference finals. Do you guys realize how hard it is to get to the conference finals every single year? That's what this guy does. He gets to the conference finals every single year. It is impossible to do that. He's been in 5 conference finals in his 7-year career. I think he's headed for a 6th and 8th. He has just been tremendous. And I think that All-NBA second team, very fitting for him this season, and clearly the best player on this list. The next guy here that I want to put into All-NBA second team is Domantas Sabonis, the NBA's triple-double leader, the NBA's double-double leader, all time with a consecutive streak that he has carried out all season long. Domantas Sabonis is the heart of Sacramento's identity. I know De'Aaron Fox has been great. The Kings are really a unique team, because before Mike Brown got there, I was pretty bullish about their long-term hopes. Obviously, this season's been tough. I do think they have a lot of long-term flexibility that is going to give them a really good chance at kind of adjusting the way that they're going to be able to play, and really kind of advancing once they get one more player. I think once they trade Harrison Barnes for another piece, they're going to take a ginormous step forward. And really the reason why is Domantas Sabonis is the system. Their dribble handoff, zoom action scheme is perfect around him. A lot of credit to Mike Brown, a lot of credit to Domantas Sabonis, He has just been tremendous all year, deserves this award. He's leading the league in rebounds as well. Just an absolute machine who has really been playing his best basketball of his career. Next on this list is Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I have both of the Phoenix Suns star players on here. Now, I know some people are going to say, whoa, I thought you were super bullish on the Suns. I was, but it wasn't because of their top-end talent, and I feel justified with what I said preseason about how this team was going to be a play-in team due to the fact that they just did not have any depth. Their team was really heavily reliant on players who typically struggle with injuries. Now, to their credit, Durant has been extremely healthy this year, a testament to his work on his body. And then also Booker, he's missed some games this year, but he has been relatively healthy and available. So credit to both of them. They're both top 7 in the NBA in scoring. Devin Booker continues to ascend as a playmaker, I think averaging a career high in assists right now, with no Chris Paul, Bradley Beal kind of being a pseudo point guard, not really. Devin Booker is the best playmaker on the team. Kevin Durant has been as efficient as usual. And I just think they both deserve to be in this conversation, which leads me to my final All-NBA second team spot. I struggled here as well with this one, but I ended up giving it to LeBron James, who for me just continues to transcend my understanding of basketball. For someone his age to be still as good of a basketball player as he is now, I know the consistency isn't quite there in the defensive end anymore. He's still a huge plus. He's a huge positive player. He is the Lakers' identity. He is the Lakers' scheme. When he's on the floor, they play through him. And when they don't play through him, he's usually the one orchestrating who to attack and who to go at. All of the clips since the Mind the Game podcasts have come out, I think have really enlightened a lot of people with how smart this guy actually is, something I've been saying for a long time. I think most people were aware he's an extremely smart player. I think the new podcast that he has with JJ Redick has opened people's eyes to really what's happening on the basketball floor, which is my favorite kind of thing to talk about. You guys know some of my breakdowns I've done. I just hope there's a greater appreciation for LeBron James. We're never going to see an athlete like this ever again. He's going to play into his 40s at an All-NBA, All-Star level. every single season, which is just ridiculous. And even 5-6 years from now, if you're telling me he's still playing, I would tell you he's probably one of the better point guards on the floor because of his ability to read defenses, attack spaces, attack gaps, and really get his teammates into those opportunities. He's just still an absurdly good player. And then All-NBA third team, Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton both make my All-NBA third team here. Anthony Edwards was a tough exclusion for me from second team. The Wolves have a top 2 record in the Western Conference at the time I'm recording this. You could make a serious case that Ant deserves All-NBA second team. For me, I shied away from that because the assist numbers just quite aren't there compared to players like Devin Booker and LeBron James from a counting stats perspective. And I still think Ant has some work to do when it comes to his clutch time offense and just kind of progressing as an overall player. But this is a big deal that both of these guys are on this list. Tyrese Halliburton, who's been struggling with an injury in the second half of the season. Due to that, some of his numbers have come down a little bit, especially the efficiency from behind the arc. That's been a noticeable drop off for him compared to where he was at the beginning of the year when I think most people were considering him an All-NBA first-team lock. And had he continued to stay healthy and play at that level, that's where he would have been for me as well. But the reality is here, his season kind of just, with the injury, regressed a little bit, which is okay because he still makes All-NBA here. This is huge for both of these teams and these players because they both get contract escalations as well by making All-NBA this year. They both signed designated rookie max extensions this past offseason. They both would take a significant salary jump with this All-NBA selection. For them, I think they'll both make it. They're both very well deserving of it. And I think given their circumstances, these are both no-brainers to be All-NBA selections. Then I have Anthony Davis. We highlighted him in all defense. I think his offensive play coupled with his defensive play, again, warrants an All-NBA selection for him. Making All-NBA third team, I think, very well warranted. Now, the Lakers having 2 All-NBA players, again, this isn't, I think, an indictment on their top-end talent, the fact that they have struggled this year. I think it's an indictment on Darvin Ham and some of their kind of deficiencies that in the roster that Rob Pelinka has built. They just don't have enough shooting around Davis and LeBron. I think if they had more shooting and a little bit more playmaking juice, that Reeves brings some of that, D'Lo brings some of that, but just a little bit more with some more shooting, I think a more space floor would have found more offensive success for this team. But Davis and LeBron, regardless, have been dominant as ever. LeBron, again, with his age, is incredible. And then Davis, one of the best seasons he's had of his career. So definitely deserving of this award. Again, it's a bloodbath here. There's like 20 guys I want to give accomplishments to and accolades to. I just can't fit everyone in. Steph Curry had to be on my list. I picked him for Clutch Player of the Year as well. Someone who, even with the Warriors struggling, this is one of the real bright spots for them. Draymond Green missing so many games this year with suspension and flagrant fouls and technical ejections, all of that. Steph Curry has been the calm in the storm for the Warriors. They've been able to lean on him. He has taken even more responsibility as a pick and roll ball handler. His scoring is off the charts this year. Again, another player you could make a real case for All-NBA second team. There's just so many great candidates. I couldn't fit everyone in. Then my last one here, Kawhi Leonard, who I think has been under the radar with how he's played this season, especially his like 35-40 game stretch, where he was arguably playing like the best player in the world at moments during that stretch. You could have made a case for All-NBA first team for him. You could have made a case for All-NBA second team. I've come off of that a little bit just because the Clippers have struggled at times, and I think Kawhi Leonard doesn't always assert himself in the way that he's capable of doing. Now in the postseason, I think we're going to see a very dialed-in Kawhi Leonard. As a Mavericks fan myself, I am terrified because this guy has tormented the Mavericks in 2 postseason series already. I think a third one is going to be a great series to watch. Now, the Mavericks look way different than their previous ones, but the Clippers do as well. They have James Harden now. It's going to be a unique series. I know people are going to say, oh, James Harden in the playoffs. James Harden's made it to a lot of second rounds and a lot of conference finals for someone who people think sucks in the postseason. Just going to say that. So when it comes to the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard, he's been great all season long. These are my 3 All-NBA team selections. It was a fun video to record. I hope you guys did enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, let me know your picks down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.